Oh, I see now. Okay, great. Okay, are we ready to get started?
We are.
Okay, here we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Town and Country Public Works Commission meeting on Tuesday, February 16th. The agenda has been distributed for your review, but before we officially start the meeting, I do have just a couple of announcements announcements that I'd like to share before we officially get started. First and foremost, I'd like to give a sincere thanks to Tim Randick. He and his team, and when I say team, is it a team of one, Tim, have been out on our roadways, our 100 miles worth of roadways, help clearing our streets, making them safe, clearing the snow and ice for the safety of our residents. Is it you and Tom, Tim?
Tom Townsend. So he always, kind of gets, he's behind the scenes and doesn't always get talked about, but Tom is the man. He is one of the main reasons the roads look as good as they do. And then our contractor, our crew, we've had a really good crew the last few years. So, these guys are some of the same drivers on the same routes. So they're really familiar with the neighborhoods, and it helps make a difference.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, Tim and Tom have clocked over, close to 30 hours of additional time to our city by clearing the snow, and who knows what tomorrow holds with the snow forecast for tomorrow. So truly appreciate it, Tim. So I just wanted to recognize you and Tom for that.
Thanks.
My street looks great.
The other item that I wanted to begin with before we officially start our meeting is to welcome our two newest members. From Ward 2, we have Todd Staley. Let me see, Todd. There you go. Hi, Todd. And from Ward 4, we have John Kovac. So with the addition of Todd and John, we have a fully loaded commission. So all 4 wards are fully represented. So we appreciate you guys applying for the position to be a commission member. And it just, it's important to have full resident representation from all 4 wards. So with that, we will officially begin our meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order. And Tim, were you able to take a visual?
I was. I have roll. Yep.
Okay,
we have
great.
a quorum.
Thank you. And last week, the minutes of the meeting from January 19th, Tuesday, January 19th, were distributed for your approval. Do we have any corrections or amendments to those minutes? I am seeing none. And with that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll make that motion.
So move.
Tony motioned, and Mark, is that a second from Mark?
Sure.
Okay. So the minutes are stand approved as written. We are on to the topic of old business. Tonight we have just one item on our list, and we're picking up where we left off at our last meeting, discussing the 2021 crack ceiling contract. Tim, if you could just take a step back and bring our newest commission members up to speed on the discussion last month, and then continue forward to move forward on that item.
Sure. Yeah, so the old business item was for a contract with Sweetens Concrete to perform crack sealing. This year, 2021, is scheduled to be our main route, which will be Clayton Road, Bope, not topping because we're gonna be reconstructing topping, but Mason Ridge, Babbler, any of our roads that we have striping. Some of the discussion from last month's meeting was there had been some issues or concerns with quality of workmanship. A few streets had a decent amount of coverage, but there were some areas that were missed. There were some areas where the aesthetics, they were didn't let the material heat up enough so that the quality was less than aesthetically pleasing, which we kind of have that in a lot of areas. It's not ideal for some subdivisions. Crack sealing's just not as aesthetically pleasing as a surface treatment. So we address those concerns with the contractor. We have compiled a list of areas. Most of those are adjacent to the roadways that they will be doing off of Bope and Clayton, because they were all in Ward 1, and they have no issues coming in and readdressing that work when they're in this spring doing the rest, if the contract is approved.
Tim, can you clarify for the commissioners main route and how it's broken out annually? So
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So we try to cycle that we touch the streets every 4 years. Due to the lane miles or square yardage, we kind of break it down by wards to some extent. The size of public streets in Ward 4 is smaller. So we lump Ward 4 and a portion of Ward 3 in together because a lot of the streets in Ward 4 are private. So we try to get a similar square yardage so that every year we kind of have a consistent cost. So we do Ward 4, portion of Ward 3, all of Ward 3, most of Ward 2, the remainder of Ward 2 and all of Ward 1, and then the main line, which is Clayton, typically topping Bope, Mason Ridge, Babbler, anything that we have striping on that we would do. So then we try to get this done. Typically, we will do the subdivisions in the fall once weather is dry and cool. Where the main line we try to do in the spring, also same conditions, but so that we can do that before our contractor comes in to restripe all of the main line.
Open for discussion. Questions?
So just Tim, picking up from last time,
Mhm.
the takeaway was you were going to go back to them and see how they would remedy the situation, and their response is, we'll come back and clean up to the best they can, fill in the cracks they didn't, and clean up the drips and drabs all over the place that they made. And
Correct.
You're satisfied with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's about the extent of what they can do. They're the control of their workmanship moving forward. We've addressed that, and the foreman that'll be on site they have a crew, and then they have a superintendent will be making more periodic stops, as will staff when they're out working. So yeah, essentially at this point, the only thing that they can do is try to address any of the areas that they missed, and then clean up any residual material.
And remind me, how long has Sweetens had a contract with the city? How long have they been doing this?
So I think I don't know where, I don't have that in front of me because I'm not in the office, but I thought I put a table together that showed the number of years that we've been doing it. I think I want to say going back to
it's been a while.
2013 maybe is when they started. So we had a couple other contractors prior to that, PLM, and there may be one or two other ones that had performed the work for us, but since I think roughly 2013. So it's fairly regularly that they've had it for the last 7 years. And, we're obviously a city that they want to make sure that, we're pleased, and they don't want to jeopardize losing or not being considered for future work.
Is this the first time that you know of that you got negative feedback?
No, I mean, as I said earlier, we get negative feedback in general about crack sealing or joint sealing. There are a lot of subdivisions that don't like the aesthetic.
Yeah.
We've had other areas where the timing when the city allowed the contractor to begin work, the road conditions were not ideal. There were still too much moisture in the joints, and the temperatures weren't right, and some of that material just raveled. So there's there's the contractor's workmanship, and then there's also the supervision of the contract and the work that they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
And Tim, can you just share from our last meeting, we tabled this discussion until this meeting and the steps that were taken between then and today. And this is for our new commissioners, how Sweetens performed service on 51 streets, and you and Tom went out and looked at, I believe, 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've and the process in general of crack sealing is not an exact science. You want maximum coverage on roads, but roads that are in worse condition obviously have more cracks, and the likelihood of getting 100% coverage on those kind of diminishes because you're not able to do it. And if you are able to do it, you're basically just painting the entire street black. And that's very difficult. Of the streets that we looked at, and issues that we had back in 2014, 15, I think on Delvin, Revere, a couple of the other subdivisions, the coverage and the workmanship, other than a few streets, we were very pleased with the coverage, the accuracy, and our value of what we got from a dollar standpoint. Not to say again that it wasn't 100% throughout the contract. We did have issues on a few of the streets, but they were not the norm. So again, I don't know if that was a change in the person that was applying the product, or a transition between materials in the tar pot that just kind of ended in the difference in the appearance and then the overall coverage.
You're welcome them back. I mean, they're going to get it again, so they're going to be on their toes then to go ahead and do a better job next year, I think, as a result of this.
We're also looking at internally trying to do more surface treatments following some of the feedback in some of the areas in the streets. We have some asphalt streets that are in more disrepair than others, and we go through kind of holistically and want the entire ward or the entire area that we're doing to be joint sealed. But then we understand that once we get to that point, there are some that within the next year or two, we probably need to come back in and do a Nova chip or a surface treatment. And so you get more feedback, immediately from the subdivision or the residents when we're doing the joint sealing. But, it's trying to buy us time to get to that year or 2 year out where we can do a more substantial repair and treatment on the road.
Further discussion? Seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation for the 2021 crack sealing?
Motion made.
Second.
Mark motioned and Kip seconded. The crack sealing, all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. and the contract will go before the Board of Aldermen. I just want to take a pause off of our agenda for a moment. Laura, did you get the message from Tom Pelican?
I did. I just sent
Okay.
him the invite.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are on the topic of new business. We have 2 items on new business. It's with regard to our police department remodel. The first item is a remodel for construction. Tim, the floor is yours.
So in 2020, the city of Town and Country budgeted for PD remodel and conference room remodel. This was done early in the year, beginning of February, and then all projects were paused or put on hold due to COVID. So this work was rebudgeted for 2021 as a priority, as this area is one of the last areas to be remodeled in City Hall. Not a lot of people get access to it, but it's pretty old and in pretty rough shape. So we have the construction contract with A. Eilers. This was originally bid out in February of 2020. Once we deferred the work and modified the scope, we reached out to A. Eilers to confirm or see if they were willing to hold their pricing from 2020 with the reduction of the conference room, or if we needed to bid the project back out. They were willing to hold their pricing. They provided us a revised cost estimate, removing the conference room. So their work will entail new LED lighting, new electrical outlets and switches. We will have new drop ceilings, new flooring, all walls painted, a new break room remodeled with new cabinets, countertops. The bathroom in the PD area will be remodeled as well, new flooring, new tile. So that is the construction contract for the PD side. That's the one component. And then as we get into the second agenda item, we will be replacing all the 1980s steel case furniture that are in their offices with updated furniture as well.
Okay, discussion regarding the construction component. Seeing none. And as Tim shared, the funds for this is represented on our 2021 approved budget.
That's correct. We budgeted, just for everyone's reference, we budgeted 200,000 for the 2021 capital improvement fund for this. We have the 96,000 for construction, close to 99,000 for the furniture, which leaves us about 5% for contingency for construction related needs, not additional wants and needs as we start to get in. So.
Do I have a motion to approve the construction contract?
I'll make that motion to approve, or I'll second.
Okay, George. I'll do it, whatever.
Do you have that, Tim?
I think I had Tony as the first and George as the second. Were we all good with that?
Dave outranks me, but that's fine. The vice chair outranks me.
He's got to be quicker on the draw.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The ayes have it. The motion carries, and that'll move forward to the Board of Aldermen. And that brings us to the furniture piece of it. Do you have more to share there, Tim, or do you want to move the discussion to the floor?
No, I can add a few things, just because you guys, this will carry over to the Board of Aldermen level. So we have the one memo for PO approval for all 3 different categories. So as part of the International Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. Bradford Systems is one of the approved vendors, which we've used previously for furniture purchases. They are also using a few different vendors to supply furniture, and they're broken out. So each category requires a separate PO. For the commission's reference, any PO that is over 7,500 requires board approval as well. So we have two on here for the shelving and the chairs, but because it is part of an overall project and they're all connected, we'll be sending those two POs to the board as well for approval, even though typically we wouldn't, just to, keep everything, transparent and together so everybody can kind of see the trail. So we will have the one agenda item, but the board will go and they'll have the one memo for the three separate PO. Unless we get into discussion and for some reason anyone here has concerns or comments on any certain portion of it.
Tim, how does Bradford Systems get paid?
So these POs, their fee is incorporated into the installation and into the pricing from the vendor itself.
Do you see that, or
It's because it's a state contract. They don't break out their individual. So they'll break out the installation, because you don't always necessarily need to have them do the installation. So that line item is broken out separate, or if there is freight charges that are not from that, but they get from typically in their area. So if you go through them, any of the A items, which is the from the vendor itself, their commission and price is included in that.
Do you know what that is roughly?
I do not know that off
Okay. Curious more than anything.
Yeah. So there are strict requirements because it's a state procurement of what, regardless of which vendor we would use, you have the price of the equipment and then the limited amount, and everyone is pretty much set at the same of what they can put on as their commission.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the federal government does the same thing with the General Services Administration. You have to go through them. You can't go on the street and go ahead and buy your own furniture.
Yeah, and I think so. Two of them are for the cooperative procurement. I think one of them is through the GSA contract, which is the KI furniture.
Thank you.
And Tim, they've agreed to hold their pricing steady from last year as well, right?
So they don't have that. They don't have that ability. They didn't have that ability because there are subcontractors or vendors that they have to go through, and so the state only requires them to hold the pricing for the length of that contractor agreement. So I'm gonna scroll through real quick to see. Like some of them will specifically say, I believe. Okay, so like if you're looking at the Space Saver shelving unit, the state of Missouri contract number is on there, and the contract period is from 6/1 of 2020 to 2/18 of 2024. So if we were outside of that window of when they did that pricing, they had to give us the updated pricing based on that state bid or based on that contract bid amount. So because we did it in February of 2020, the Space Savers, we had to get new numbers similar to I think a few of the other ones that had the dates on there. But what that allowed Bradford Systems to do was also to look at which vendor would be comparable to what we had. So their number is lower, one, because we did eliminate the conference room which was a good portion of furniture for a executive conference table with new chairs in our back room, was close to 18,000. So their PO, I think from 2020 was somewhere in the 118,000 to 120,000 range, and we're at like 90, 98 now with them in total, I think, or 99.
99.
Yeah. So their pricing is close to the same as what it was from last year.
And you said that goes through 2024?
So each of the so the contracts
I see. Yeah.
are all separate. So like Ergo Force, the chairs, the police chairs, which are designed to
2022.
be a little bit wider for the gun belts and holsters to fit in,
Yeah.
that goes as valid until May 31st of 2022. So each contract, based on the contract number and the material that's being purchased from that vendor, has a different
Gotcha.
procurement agreement.
And thanks for the explanation. I was curious why police chair, but that makes total sense. I didn't think about that. So
Yes. Yeah. So they're, a lot of times they come in, they have got their gun belts on, and they've got so much stuff. So your standard, your standard design office chair, some of them have the adjustable arms that they can raise up. Some of them have them that they can go out a little bit, but these are specifically designed for law enforcement.
Tim, I had a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
I guess the first issue was, since it was done last year,
Mhm.
it was easy for me to say, yeah, that's fine. But I kept having this nagging sense of, is it really needed? New furniture for the captain, for the chief, for this and that. Pictures would really help if I was looking at this. Pictures of maybe what the condition is currently, and then picture of what you're looking to replace it with.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm more of a visual person, but it would help me in looking at that huge document to really easily say, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So what I would tell you is we have in the packet, starting on page 152. So you have the like the floor plan and layout of the office furniture and the office areas. I would be more than happy if there were any commissioners that wanted to take a look at the existing space to give you a tour. I don't necessarily want to take pictures in the police department and then post them out on
Good point.
packets out for the general public, just because those are secured areas and not typically accessed by the general public. But for instance, what I can tell you is the current break room kitchen area has a residential laminate countertop that is not in good shape. We're looking at putting things back in that are more of a commercial grade to withstand 24/7 operation that has 12 to 18 officers in, depending on shift change and things like that. So you have the floor layouts. They don't give you they're black and white because a lot of it we haven't selected, or they don't add in the selection for colors or aesthetics. You do have up above that in the KI submittal, a lot of the descriptions are in there of what's being ordered for where there are some product pictures for some of the different areas, and they're just generic pictures that cover cover photo of the conference room to give you a general idea of table color style, some of the side chairs. But yeah, you don't get the full picture of what's going in, obviously, from this packet.
And I had kind of the same question, but I think I heard you say this is from the mid to late 80s. Did I hear you say that right?
Yeah. So I'm not sure. So the building was built, I believe, in 87. I believe it's the original carpet. I believe it's likely the original furniture in most of the areas. It's a, old steel case. So depending on what officer is in which office, you a lot of times it's hand-me-down furniture that you're trying to kind of piece together for their needs. Obviously, their needs in 2021 are a lot different than they were in 1987 or 1990. Some of the layouts, I think, that I could show you some of the offices we have set up now where they have a wardrobe cabinet, so they can, they have an area for their coats, for their vests, things like that when they're in their office. And it's trying to bring it up to date,
And I had a very minor one, but one of the things that just struck me as odd, installation of chairs for $625. I feel like I'm penny pinching here, but
Yeah.
what do you have to do to install a chair?
Well, so there's not much, but they are going to be delivered, and they are going to they're going to deliver them to a warehouse and then have to rehandle them a couple times. Part of all of the installation costs, and the reason they're as high as they are is because they have to bill it at prevailing wage. Because the amount of the contract is over 75,000, we're paying prevailing wage. So while it's, figured in, I don't know what, half hour period per chair of taking a chair, unboxing it, putting the chair together and then carrying it in, because it's not going to be, it won't be completely assembled, but they've got a couple pieces they have to put together on those chairs and then move them into the office. So that's all included in that.
It just seemed odd to me, but I'll accept that.
Yeah. And sometimes we have the option if these, the scope of what we're doing is smaller, if it's under the $75,000 threshold, we can, we don't necessarily have to pay prevailing wage, but the prevailing wage is a requirement on these.
Right, I saw that.
Mm-hmm. And just to back up regarding when this conversation initiated, it actually initiated in 2019 where they're putting together plans for the upgrades to the police department area and landed on the 2020 budget, and then COVID came along, so we pushed it out to 2021, and the board approved it for the 2021 budget.
Okay.
Just to clarify. But Mark, did that answer your questions, or are you looking to motion?
One more here.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the
Let me finish with Mark to see if his questions were answered, and then Dave.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think that's fine. The mere fact that it was approved a year ago, et cetera, it makes me feel very comfortable. Anyway, nothing's really changed. But having worked in corporate America on old desks for a long time, feeling like everybody gets a new desk and a new workspace seemed almost luxurious to me. But I'll go for it.
Yeah, we had previously, and again, that was, part of, we've done several phases of remodels at the municipal center. So we have remodeled the development department, and that included new furniture. We've remodeled the administrative offices, finance, city clerk, the courts, which all included new furniture. And that, not that, you just about justify one by the other, but this was, I think, one of the last legs of trying to take an area and get it to where we'll be in good shape for another 20 or 30 years, that we may not need to, purchase new equipment, new furniture, redo any carpets or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Dave? Dave, did you still have a question or discussion item?
Well, what happens to the old furniture? Is it restored, thrown in a junk pile? What?
So I think we are gonna give the staff the opportunity if they want to purchase the old furniture. We'll do that. If not, we have quite a bit that is stored in a lower level, and then we'll determine what to do with the old stuff.
I mean, that's the cost. In other words, the cost of getting rid of the old stuff is not part of this contract. So that's an extra cost.
So if we're disposing of the old furniture, it's essentially equivalent to a roll-off dumpster of $350 if we're disposing of it. If we can donate it, great. If we have staff that want to purchase it for $1 or whatever, that's something that we'll look into. But we have dumpster fees included for our annual budget. So, and that's in a separate category that won't affect it. The thing about steel cases is you basically unscrew it and it all goes completely flat. So.
Well, I just is when the Coast Guard, which is compared to the other services, and we would go ahead and salvage what we could, repaint it, whatever it is, put a plexiglass top on it, and slide a big sheet of terry cloth under there. It really looked neat because we could get the terry cloth real cheap because we have big guns, and it's used to clean barrels and things like that. So that's what I did in my Loran station and what have you. But when I was in St. Louis here, we were next to Southern Scrap Iron, and any junk we had, we put in a dumpster, and they went ahead and hauled it off, weighed it, and gave us some money.
Thanks, Dave. Further discussion regarding the furniture? I did, while we were discussing this, connect with Chief Cavens, and I just want to share that the police department side is original except for the locker rooms and basement and the sergeant's office and the gym. Let me just continue to read this text.
Yeah,
The hallway was replaced 8 years ago.
Flooring.
Yeah. And everything is original, including the furniture. So if that helps with the age of the area of the police department side. Okay, so if I'm not seeing any further discussion or questions, do I have a motion to approve the furniture contract?
Move it.
Second.
All those, do you have the two names, Tim? I'm sorry.
So I got Wunderlich as a first. I didn't catch who was second. Who was?
Kip.
Kip's got it. Okay.
I'm sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't see any opposition. The ayes have it, so the motion carries, and that'll move forward to the Board of Aldermen. Okay, that is it for our old and new business. Next, we're on to discussion, and we have Ballast and Clayton Crosswalk. Tim, do you want us to scroll down to the last page of our packet, or can Laura share the screen?
Can I interrupt for a minute before we get too far into this?
Yes,
Sure.
sir.
I'm looking at the absolute last page
Yes.
of the drawing, which includes a diagram of a truck. And I just want to point out that the current legal limit on trailers is 53 feet, not 40. And I happen to have a couple of units that are 65 feet. Matter of fact, I got 10 trailers that are 53 feet. And I think that this destroys this whole premise. Let me point out to you that when that bank and that coffee donut place tried to put an installation on the corner of Ballast and Clayton, I forget what it was, Tim Horton, that's what it was.
Mhm.
I offered to bring one of these units out and show them that it couldn't be done, that they couldn't do what they wanted to do, because if they backed the trailer in 53 and 12 feet for the tractor, you got 65 feet, it would block Ballast Road. That has not changed. We still are dealing with 65 feet overall limits on track trailer combinations. And so the only thing I'm saying is you always need to bear that in mind when you're looking at intersections. And this is one where it's going to be very, very difficult with a 65-foot unit to make any turns. Now, of course, there are 40-foot trailers out there, but I find this assumption flawed if you're using an overall length of 40 plus 7, when in fact you could have 53 plus 12. And that's really the only comment I want to make.
Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob. And before we open it up to the floor discussion, I want to throw it back to Tim. This discussion item is for the Ballast and Clayton crosswalk. Tim, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so this plan sheet that you have that you're referencing, 196 of 196 in your packet, that has the vehicle design for the truck turning radius, that was the agreed upon truck size that St. Louis County would accept as we were attempting to design or redesign, reconfigure the crosswalks and sidewalks for the federal project, the Clayton and Ballast intersection. Yes, I agree, Bob, that there are larger trucks. I don't know how many of those larger trucks utilize this intersection, but the reason that we landed on this is St. Louis County has, I think it's six different categories for your truck turning radius, and which lane they will go into when they're making a turn, if they will travel into oncoming traffic, and you have like A through F on your truck turning standards. So we were not allowed any design exceptions for truck turning radiuses. They had to be A and all make the radius turn within the adjacent lane, which required the reconfiguring of the corner, which is kind of where we ran into trouble. And it's a little off topic, but I'll just give you a little bit of the feedback. So currently right now you have the Scott property that has the small retaining wall on the parking lot. You have the utility poles that are in the sidewalk that don't bring them into ADA compliance. So from the design requirements that we had from St. Louis County with this truck turning radius with no exceptions, what had to occur was the configuration of the sidewalk had to be in such a manner that we couldn't go further out into the roadway. We had to hold it in place, which then would require the utility poles to move into the parking lot, which would be on top of the wall or directly behind it. The issue with that is there's currently a 16-inch water main that's in that exact location. So our utility poles would go right through the water main. So the water company and the water main is currently in an easement and not in right of way. And Missouri American Water refused to relocate their water main into the right of way. They wanted to maintain in easement, which would require them to go further back into the parking lot. So Pandora's box. We're just kind of a chain reaction of all these things that pushed us further and further into that parcel, which is where we ran into issues, and that's pretty much where the project ended with Town and Country and St. Louis County. So from our standpoint, we still find this intersection important and of value. And really, this is less about the truck turning radius designs for St. Louis County. This was just provided because it was the plan sheet that I had that showed or had the best option of showing where the potential crosswalks for the intersection would be. There's currently on the south leg running east to west across Ballast, where our multi-use trail is. That is currently in place, and that's the only crosswalk on the intersection.
On the
So-
Clayton Trails, on the Clayton Trail side.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
this conversation is about pedestrian safety crossing the intersection.
Yeah. So we do have a proposal that's going before P&Z tomorrow night for the northeast corner, where the previous submittal that you referenced for the Reliance Bank and Tim Hortons was. That's currently the empty lot for a total access urgent care. And as part of that design and development, the city will require them to install in that same configuration a sidewalk that you see on this plan now in the upper right corner of the plan sheet. So that parcel will have a sidewalk to it. We are not going to require additional work outside of where that sidewalk is, only because it doesn't currently connect to anything, and we don't technically have the ability to control that intersection as a county controlled intersection or require the developer to do anything. But what we're looking for, or what we want to discuss is, if we could do a resolution or communicate to St. Louis County, we may not get all areas or all quadrants, but what should be a priority if we have a priority, if we're gonna do legs, 1, 2, 3 that haven't been done, how should we prioritize them? Should we give them a recommendation? Since we have a development going in, do we want to see a crosswalk that is from the northeast corner to the southeast corner connecting into Clayton Trail? Should that be priority number 1, and then potentially going east-west on the north quadrant, and then north-south on the west quadrants.
And just to add a little bit more information of that northeast corner that you're discussing. So let's refer to that as the corner of the empty lot.
Mhm.
Sitting behind there is a subdivision that has residents who are looking to get up to the Clayton Trail and pass that, go through that intersection safely with a light assistance. Right now, that is not there. And then also you have Visitation School, which I believe is K through 12, and who also, look to have safe passage across that street. And then if you go down, if you head from that intersection on Clayton Road, if you head east, the first subdivision on the left is Radcliffe, and that has 3 subdivisions within one. So the first one has 30 homes. And again, there isn't passage from that side of the roadway of Clayton to the other side with a light assistance at Bope or at the Ballast and Clayton intersection.
Has there been any thought given to a pedestrian overpass?
Not that I'm aware of, Tim.
No, so what we did, so part of what's in your packet is when the city acquired the grant, the STP grant, with a cooperative effort with St. Louis County, where they provided some match funding. We had a Clayton and Ballast task force, and we looked at the intersection, and we looked at what, from the intersection and beyond, stretching west to Kirk and Knoll, east to Fairborn, north to Visitation, south to Ballast Lane. So we crept out of the intersection of what were our goals, what was the city's goal to see at that intersection. Did we want to do beautification? Did we want to upgrade, signals to something more ornate? Did we want to create some focal point for the entrance, or a entrance into, the community from some directions? So the task force in 2016 kind of looked at that in totality, and the main takeaway was connectivity, getting access, and improvement of traffic flow. So the AM PM drive in that area, and what it does to Clayton and Ballast. So we developed based off of that feedback. We had our engineer do some alternate options or alternate designs, which are all kind of included in your packet. I think 1 through 9, or 1 through 8. One includes a roundabout, in that area, which, basically kind of blows up those properties and their parking lots, and we knew that was a non-starter. So there were things that we looked at. A pedestrian overpass was not, just from a financial standpoint. We thought that there were other ways that we could get pedestrians across that would be more financially viable options.
And Tim, when those options were being researched, that's when the city and the county were partnered together working on a project. With the termination of that project in, I don't know, maybe our January Board of Aldermen meeting, now it is, whatever would come forward at this point in time is a county project. So are we looking today to, are we asking our commissioners if we should be putting together a resolution to direct county to assist safe passage for pedestrians on the intersection, because they currently do not have the lights there? Or are we looking for something more? And this is an arterial road. It's 40 miles an hour for the most part as it goes through our city of Town and Country. That isn't going to change. It's connecting 270 to 40 in an efficient manner. So, and when we've had conversations with county regarding a sidewalk on Ballast, because there is no, as at this point in time, it is 40 miles an hour, and that's not changing. And so now we're focused on the corner for this conversation and how to get pedestrians across the street. So what are we asking of our commissioners?
Yeah. So we are no longer financially invested in providing improvements to the intersection. I think we went down that road. We pursued it as far as we could. So I don't think we're looking to partner financially moving forward. St. Louis County does have this intersection identified as something that requires ADA improvements. They will look at it from a functionality standpoint and look for the most efficient method to provide those ADA accesses. So yeah, I think what we would look for from this commission is if we were going to make a recommendation or create a resolution that would encourage St. Louis County to continue their efforts at this intersection, what would be our priority for access? As far as the end product, I wouldn't say that we would necessarily try to add cooks into the kitchen and say, well, we want to see this the end result or the end product will be of St. Louis County's design and meet their criteria, and look at it more as for accessing country air or visitation, or for what and how do we think it should be prioritized? In the end, St. Louis County understands it's their intersection, and all legs are priorities, but depending on timing and funding and this development, maybe one direction makes more sense to them than others, and we just want to provide them a encouragement or agreement, or say yes, we agree, or we find this is maybe this provides the most connectivity, and encourage them in that direction.
Commentary. I got involved with it when it was Tim Hortons several years ago, and the people in Ward 1 asked me to attend a meeting and look at that. And what I learned from the people that were doing the traffic survey, that they only were looking at the intersection and not much else. And what was one of the things that killed the Tim Horton thing was that traffic heading west on Clayton, it's on the north side, making that sharp turn to go north on Ballast, then make another quick turn to go into Tim Hortons. It was, and that's only one through lane there, that the chances of any to Tim Hortons, because it was a drive-in, was going to block that blind corner, and that was going to kill the whole situation, the whole intersection. Now, what I look at now is you still have to look at the whole area, and the new player on there is MOBAP, because this is an urgent care, and they're going to be a front end to the nearest hospital. And I would do a study of flow between connecting MOBAP with them, and that's an awkward corner because you're making a left-hand turn across the lane heading south on Ballast. And I don't know, that's got to be studied, and I don't see that in what they're doing right now. It's because it's not exactly a 90-degree corner. It's got this kind of a narrow one, and you're turning around it, and it becomes what they call blind corner. And so I said that I don't think we're looking at a big enough picture of beyond just what the urgent going to be doing care with, and that would be MOBAP.
So not to go down the rabbit hole, but we will and are requiring a traffic study for any development at that corner, which will include connectivity beyond the intersection itself. That is a requirement that's already been sent to Total Access and will be discussed by the city planner and public planning and zoning commission. So that component is already in process, and I think probably while we want to talk, we're talking a little bit about Tim Hortons and Total Access urgent care. I think if maybe we, wipe the slate clean and just focus on the intersection of how our connectivity in the city, so say it stays an empty lot for the next 10 years. We still want to have connectivity. We still want to provide access, and what should our priorities be? Do we want to make a resolution? Do we want to make a recommendation that Pam can take to the board that says, the Public Works Commission feels like, this is an important intersection and we should focus on, 1, 2, 3 as our priority?
I mean, practically speaking, Tim, can we say that east-west is taken care of? There is a way to cross east to west, just today. So process of elimination says focus on north-south, right? Yep. And then you say, okay, if I got to pick between those, people who know the area, I think I heard there's neighborhoods to the east that did not have access. I did not hear neighbors to the west without access, or they go to the one by 270. So from what I heard, process of elimination would be the east side, north-south first, the west side, north-south second, by the input I think I heard the team do. Because
And
east
then
west is taken care of, right?
Yep. And then the third and last leg would be east-west on the north side of the intersection. Yeah, and that's from a professional standpoint how I look at the priorities, but kind of wanted to let you guys,
Well, I'm far from a professional, so.
Yeah. And it makes sense. It makes sense that if there is a development that moves in, and I don't know if you can pick it up on your plans, that the sidewalk that will be required will be in there can be connected onto with an ADA ramp that would take them out to an island and get them on the north-south connector. So the more of the infrastructure will be in place if that lot gets developed to accommodate that north-south connection on the east side as a priority number one. The more challenging, obviously, is the northwest quadrant and corner where you have the parking lot and the retaining wall and the poles. Now, there has been discussion of an alternate option of both St. Louis County and Town and Country shrinking our lane widths on that to where nothing needs to be pushed into that private property. But that's some design exceptions and something that county is going to have to bring to the table and agree with so that that leg and that sidewalk can be put in ADA compliant, and then any additional connections or ramps or striping can be done at that time.
So are we looking for something to go to P&Z with for tomorrow night's meeting? Is this the catalyst for this discussion, or what is it that you guys are looking for from us?
So we made, we've made, staff has made comments, both from a planning standpoint, from a zoning standpoint, and from a public works standpoint for the development. And the city planner has those and has sent those to planning and zoning, and they will discuss them. I think that if there were any additional comments, which we had some about truck turning radius from Bob, traffic study from Dave, which are all included, and that just reconfirms the city's position, is great. And then for and aldermanic purposes, if this commission, again, feels passionate about making a recommendation that the city does a resolution or provides, its position on the intersection that we can send to St. Louis County in, what would be somewhat of an official manner by resolution. And that may not be the case. We may decide that that's, not the route we want to go, and just continue to, coordinate with them administratively. But what our goals are, we don't have the Clayton and Ballast task force anymore. So if we're looking at this from a connectivity standpoint, what should our priorities be? And I think Kip pretty much lined them out. What I would view them as.
Question I have is, if you're heading west or east rather on Clayton Road, how do you get there? Because they're on the northeast corner. Do you go through the intersection and then go across traffic there, or do you make your left turn and then go in there? And that's what it's. I'm not clear on that, because it seems, because of the odd shape and everything else like that, to get from point A to point B, if you are heading to the east and you're trying to get to the northeast corner from the west side, is going to be a difficult thing to do and easy to jam up traffic heading north on Ballast Road.
Yeah, Dave, we're looking more at the pedestrian component for
pedestrian.
I understand that, but the issue here is that I don't know that we have that much of a pedestrian issue, problem than we're going to have with the traffic issue for vehicles that are trying to get in there with people that may need a quick help. Nobody's
So-
going to go to that place on the walk in. It's not going to have walk in traffic from across the intersection.
Yeah.
So-
Care.
so back
People
to
are going to
what
drive there. They're not going
Tim
to walk
said.
there.
So back to what Tim said, we're thinking about this intersection, irregardless if there's a development on the where the empty lot is located or not. It was primarily because, and Tony, back to you a little bit as well, a project that initiated in 2000, what, Tim, 13, 15?
So as a result of the Clayton Trail on the south leg, I think that was in 2012, 13, then it generated the 2015 project of attempting to bring the entire intersection into ADA compliance.
And that partnership with county terminated about a month ago. So city walked, county walked from doing any upgrades to the intersection. So the question is, do we feel, since this is one of our main thoroughfares and there isn't a project and it is a county intersection, do we want to, as a city, as a board, and starting out of the Public Works Commission, send a resolution to say to county, this is still a priority, even though we're not moving together. We want you to move on this, and this is our resolution, and teeing it up in a way that isn't, to Tim's point, designing it, but highlighting the importance of it. And there are 2 subdivisions that are currently located where they can't cross to get to the Clayton Trail with pedestrian light access.
I would think if we have residents that need their voices heard on this piece to try and influence the county, then we should use the formality of a resolution to do that, to hopefully give weight to their voice.
And
I agree.
Thank you. And there isn't an urgency to this because this is not tied to the current proposed development. That is a coincidence of this conversation. Both happen to be going on at the same time. So I'm going to make a recommendation, Tim. Maybe do we draft something and bring it back to this body before we bring it to the board?
Sure.
As an agenda item for our next meeting?
Yeah. So, and just for the commission's references, the Pam and our Alderman Holman and staff were contacted by residents prior to the submittal for total access urgent care. So these conversations about accessibility were taking place before we had a development come through. And as the development is coming through, we obviously want to ensure that we have some of the infrastructure in place that allows us to provide, connectivity in there. If we can get, as part of that development, have some of those things put in place that then would allow county easier access to then do modifications. That's obviously important.
What you're saying then is we want to kick this back and make sure it is both the local traffic, walking trail traffic, all that kind of stuff, and the new problem on the street, and that's the total access care. And they both have to be considered, and one can't trump the other. They have to work together. Or one's going to prevail, one or the other, but this is not an easy answer.
Yeah, you can provide connectivity and ADA access regardless of what is occurring at the intersection traffic wise. So, I mean, whether people are trying to make a left turn or a right turn, you can still do a crosswalk. So I
understand, but making a left turn from Ballast Road to get in there, where making that turn and then crossing the traffic, you're making a turn and then you're making another turn within about 50 feet of each other, whether you turn before or after the intersection. It is not an easy turn. It's got to be looked at. That's the thing to me that trumps everything else.
So let's bring forward a resolution at the next meeting, and we can we'll send that out in the packet for the commissioners to take a look at and to wordsmith, and then we can come together at our next meeting on language and clean it up. Sound like a plan? Then this isn't an item that we're voting on. This is just
It's probably good to put distance between that conversation and the planning and zoning conversation anyway, so they're clearly viewed as separate things.
Right. And I'm going to apologize for all the beeping. I had kids over here sledding today, and so that is my front door beeping constantly, and I apologize.
That's where we're living today. That's part of reality. So.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. Okay, so I appreciate the discussion on that, and we'll be back to you next month with more on that. So that is it for our agenda this evening, and so I think our meeting's coming to a close. So do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
Have a
Second.
second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Meeting is officially adjourned, gentlemen.